For me, narcissism has been an encounter with my life for as long as I can remember. Willingly or unwillingly, knowingly or knowingly, I have been within the vicinity of some sort of narcissistic individual for as long as I can remember. This encounter began with my birth as an empath. We'll talk about a little bit about what an empath is, its equation to a narcissist, but it began with my birth and surely will continue to the rest of my days. Now, I, as a child, was described as my parents as quite unique, quite different, constantly reading, constantly writing, constantly thinking. Now, when you put such a strange child into the vicinity of a playground, they seem to be a little bit of an outcast. As a child, I really found it very difficult to make strong, healthy relations with the people that I was around. And that really manifested itself in me finding people and getting to know people and encountering people that really had very similar toxic traits. And I took it upon myself to believe that it was my fault and it was my inability to socialize myself correctly, and it really developed in itself in a lot of frustration. Now, when I came to the university as a law student in September 2015, I believed that this encounter, this cycle of toxic people, of time wasters, of disrespectful people to end. But actually, it pretty much exaggerated itself. It became more repetitive, more intensified, and it manifested itself in a person, an encountering of a person who is the reason that I'm having this talk today. And it was the encountering of this particularly remorseless, grade A millennial narcissist that enabled me to really understand why I was encountering this cycle, this recycled system of, it was almost seasonal actually, and there's something of spirituality that comes into this as well. In the winter, the friendship would be new and blossoming and promising. And towards the summer, as the days lightened, it's as if the colors of those people lightened and became visible to me as well. When I was able to psychologically map this individual who had such a huge effect on my life in such a small amount of time, I was able to look into myself as well. I was able to psychologically map not only myself, but the people around me, the people that were closest to me. And also, I was able to look into the emotional landscape of the millennial state. After much deliberation, after 4 years of living away, of having no parents or anyone to really guide my emotional and spiritual growth, I am here to tell you that in the backdrop of social media addiction, a failing relationship scene, and a booming, devastating mental health crisis, narcissism has finally found itself the perfect breeding place with which to grow. Now, the first topic that I will talk about is social media addiction. And social media, to say that social media has a significant impact on the millennial lifestyle would be an absolute understatement. The topic or the social media application that I would like to put much of my analysis on today is Instagram. Now, how many of you have Instagram in this audience? And let's say, how many of you guys at least use Instagram once a day? How many people use it a little bit more? How frequent would it be? Can I have some answers from the audience? How frequently do you use Instagram on a daily basis? Let's imagine. 3 hours. Like 3 hours. And the great thing is that when you're on your iPhone, I actually kind of found this out quite late, but you can actually measure how much time you use. I personally, before I deactivated my Instagram about a week before I came here, I was using Instagram for 4 hours and 14 minutes a day. 4 hours and 14 minutes of constant reception, of constant taking in of this virtual platform that Lady Gaga recently described as the toilet of the internet. Your Instagram profile, think of it right now. Is it a true representation of your life? I would think not. Your Instagram profile is a deliberate collage of self-selected, deliberately captured, and quite painfully uploaded with this, we have such a journey of uploading something. We have to think of the right caption. We have to think of the sort of message that we're trying to push to the audience. We call up our friends. We ask people, how can I take this picture that will get the most attention, the most likes, the most reception from this one capture. We spend so much of our times thinking and overthinking on the pettiness of a simple capture that we have made our entire lives revolve around it. Now, I would like to take the same analysis and correlate it to the narcissistic perspective. Now, the narcissist, at the center of his or her personality, is a grandeur sense of self. Now, a grandeur sense of self manifests itself in a delusional understanding of the person. When you look into the mirror, you see yourself. Perhaps there are some insecurities that cloud your judgment. Perhaps you're feeling a little bit good about yourself that day. You're feeling yourself. So you see yourself as a little bit more good looking that day. The narcissist sees an entire person, a completely different person. A person who is enlarged, much better than people, requires more special treatment. And that grandeur sense of self requires constant maintenance. Now, in the same way that your Instagram profiles require constant maintenance and constant thinking and overthinking about how are we portraying ourselves? Are we getting enough likes? Are we getting enough followers? How are people receiving us and the things that we post? The narcissist, in the same way, and with their grandeur sense of self, constantly needs to maintain and be validated by the way that they portray themselves, which is absolute false perspective that they reflect onto the world because they don't actually see themselves in the way that they truly are to begin with. Instagram has made people seek validation on many, many levels. Whether you like it or not, whether you believe, and a lot of men that I asked were actually a little bit more hesitant to agree and to admit to how much of importance and how much of weight we place on the interactions that we get on social media. But the fact of the matter is that, like I said, subconsciously or consciously, we are constantly seeking some sort of reward or some sort of reaction or attention when we post something. That being said, social media and narcissism has a very interesting relationship. For narcissists, a social media platform is the perfect playground. A lot of people talk about how they find a lot of strange people on Instagram, and then when they meet them, they seem to be even more stranger. Or you sometimes, for example, as a lot of people are on social media, they are masters of disguise and illusion. So who they seem to be on Instagram or on Facebook, they don't actually are in real life. And in the same way, what we do is, rather than actually seeing the person at hand, we see their Instagram profile. And like I said, social media has an interplay relationship. Social media for narcissists has become their playground, but social media has also done and is operated and is constructed in a way that encourages narcissistic behavior. But I believe, from personal experience, from seeing how it's playing out, and by just observing the millennial landscape, that narcissism has actually dug its claws much deeper in the realm of relationships. And I'll tell you why. The first thing is that this generation prides itself on its aversion to feelings, to commitment, to dedication, and to consistency. We believe that a non-commitment, no strings attached, no time period set, no rules given, purely physical, casual attraction is going to be a better alternative. A purely physical connection with no dedication or no commitment, what that has done is it's divided people into the winners and into the losers. Those who win are those who don't get their feelings caught up in it. Those who very easily detach the physical with the emotional. Now, as a psychological point of view, those who are able to quite easily detach the physical and the mental would have some sort of disorder and some sort of condition that underlies the fact that they're able to do so. But as human beings whose hearts, I believe, are attached to permanency and to the eternal and to what is consistent, for a lot of us, we end up losing. So why the hell are we choosing this sort of a recycling system where we go through several partners without any sort of meaningful connection developed, because we have some sort of aversion to vulnerability as well, and we think that we're going to somehow feel better about ourselves? Now think of that, let that sort of settle in your head. I will tell you what the narcissist and how the narcissist acts in a relationship. A narcissist considers their partner to be supply. Everyone in their life has a certain category. Narcissists are not illogical people. They are massively intelligent and massively strategic, just the way that we have started to become strategic with our associations and the way that we have mapped ourselves on the online platform. Narcissists are pretty much the same. So they consider partners, like I said, to be supply. Each partner or each person has a different level of supply. Now, the funny thing is that no matter how much of good supply you think that you're giving in terms of consistency, compliance, of emotional support, financial support, you can be dropped at the drop of a hat by a narcissist. In the last and final stage of a narcissistic relationship, it's called discarding. They can drop a person for more consistent or more high quality supply within a minute. They can tell you that they love you the day before and have you blocked and deleted from everything the day after. And a couple of months after, you realize that actually you've been discarded for something else. Now think of the same way that we recycle our partners in the context of hookup culture. What Tinder has done is, if you have had an argument with someone, with your partner, or if you've had a difficult time with one of your friends, the fact that we are so easily able to connect and contact people, we have that ability to forget about this person and go look for more. What social media, like I said, has done is it's constantly fed us with more and more entertainment, more and more movement, and always promises to make things better for you. In the same way, rather than looking and trying to preserve and conserve what we have in front of us, we are constantly looking at what we can have. A narcissist acts pretty much in the same way. I'm not saying that all millennials are narcissists and all narcissists are millennials, but I believe that there is something inherent within the tools of the millennial trade that has a lot to do with the unsettlement of feeling that is growing. A lot of my friends that I talk to, there's something of chaotic, of silent chaos in their lives. They're never disconnected. They don't understand what fulfills them, because we have a world telling us that you will be fulfilled if you have this, or if you have this many likes, or if you have this many followings, or if you look like this on Instagram, you will be happy. What we have done is, rather than keep to the originality of the human being and the requirements of the human soul, we have found some sort of strange aesthetic world that's actually more complicated than a simple human life, and we've thought this is the alternative. And in turn, this world that we have created is, I believe, the greatest reason why we have a booming mental health crisis. Now, who in this audience knows what a fuckboy is? You guys know, yeah? Now, a fuckboy has become massively popular from Instagram lingo. Everyone seems to know a fuckboy. I think it was about last year that I discovered the phenomenon. I went online and I checked, how do you identify one? Everyone seems to know one. All the guys seem to be one, all the girls kind of are getting fed up of this and they want to turn the tables and become savages too. And so when I looked it up online, the first characteristic that was written on this article was a complete inconsistency of communication, a detachment attitude towards relationships, and a pretty remorseless one as well. Now, when I looked at this, I thought, if everyone's sort of laughing and giggling over such an extreme concept, is there something that's lying behind this fuckboy phenomenon, or is it simply just an attitude? When I looked deeper and further into this, I recognized that a fuckboy is pretty much a low-level narcissist, a person who doesn't give a damn about who they hurt, as long as they're getting supply, as long as they're getting what they want, and as long as it's freely available and convenient. Now, in the same way, fuckboys have also contributed to cheating culture. I'm sure you guys know about the Jordan Woods scandal. Everyone seems to be cheating. Everyone seems to be normalizing cheating. And it seems to be as if, rather than with time we progress into moral sanity, we are digressing into moral insanity. Now, with all of these things in mind, my point, or my talk, or the purpose of my talk today, is that we need to recognize that there is something inherently within the world that we believe to be our everyday life, things that we consider to just be tools of our trade, communicate, just things that perhaps the millennial life or the lifestyle of a millennial would be incomplete without. There is something within that is causing so much distress, so much anxiety, so much emptiness. We had a brilliant talk about teen loneliness. There is a 34% connection between social media use and depression. And the funny thing is on Tinder they had a particular study. The more active in terms of statistics and in terms of activity use, the more active a user was, the more likely they were to have low self-esteem. So what I would like to say is that narcissism personally from me took so much from me, a little bit too much. I was unable to navigate my way through social media, and social media is a world where it cannot be regulated. But there is a message or some sort of solace that I think that I would like to push to you guys, and I would like you guys to consider that we must remember that there is more to human life than what is tangible, what is measurable, what is clinical. All the solutions that we have today, it has to be evidenced. I would say that we require a return to spirituality, a return to understanding who we really are as people, of becoming our original and genuine selves rather than following this facade, this social media trend. I would ask you guys to think about what is it that is making you guys unhappy, and to really admit and to really analyze whether and truly it is the world that you step into for 4 hours a day continuously, or whether it is something else. And if you guys believe that your social media use is healthy, then that's fantastic. But I would ask you guys to look into what you guys are feeding into your minds every day. For social media is an energy exchange. The millennial complaint, a very common millennial complaint, is that we are always exhausted, we're always fatigued. It's an energy exchange. All those people put something up and it's an energy exchange and we receive that. So I would say that the 3 solutions that I would like to put forward is to admit, to believe that there is something within our generation, our tools of trade, that is causing so much of emotional sickness. The second thing is, that I would say, is that we need to re-believe or to give a chance again to things that are intangible, immeasurable, but spiritual. For me, after having gone through 6 years of very bad depression and anxiety, my answer or my solace was I found in Islam, of coming back to spirituality, of prioritizing myself and what is spiritual and what is important, rather than being so deeply involved in the customs and the demands and the dictations of a virtual platform. Like I said, narcissism took a lot from me. I almost saw my university progression go up in flames. I was always a good student, but actually last year there was actually a chance of me having to leave the university altogether. I saw my relationships die. I had a complete and utter breakdown, which was silent, which was deadly. And that's the nature of narcissism, and that's the nature of the world that we live in. This epidemic is silent, it's residual, and it's over time. And I believe that everyone in this room does believe that there is something happening to ourselves, to our happiness, to our emotional states, because of the way that we choose to live our lives. And so for me, standing here today and identifying the cycles of toxicity in my life, of being able to understand why I've been so unhappy for so long, and what the true remedy of my depression is, I hope that in the same way that this is my personal breakthrough, from this talk you also achieve some sort of enlightenment or some sort of understanding of how to re-begin the healing process. It's been an honor, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much.